Ask me, are you dying as you live or living afraid to die? I couldn't lie, son. I heard God's son, like a calm hum. Died some, came alive some, up on high some. Lifted up that prison, you'll be sliding out that sepulcher. Crosshair on my body, don't care if they shoot the messenger. Ain't no weapon form shall prosper, gospel flow out me like lava. No enemy that we can't counter, Mouser. I spit heat throughout the heavens to the valleys, from the highs into the lows. Everybody know I gun it with the ghost. And though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I keep that peace round my hip and keep the T round my neck. I'm talking heat like Elisha, fire.
I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Right.
Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
Hello, everybody. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I know it's been a little bit since I've gone live, but I figured today we could kind of do a refresher and look at it with new eyes, the things that we have discussed about the upcoming single episode documentary about chaos, written by Tom O'Neill. I say that chaos is the ultimate Manson limited hangout, and it makes total sense to me that it is only one episode, because if you took out how many times he said that it took him 20 years to write the book, but you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater here, so I'm going to go ahead and run the intro, and we'll get
How many
into
years
it.
did it take you to do this?
In the end, exactly 20 years.
So your book, Chaos, what a fascinating journey this has been for you. A 20-year journey to create this thing.
20 years.
Dianetics, 1950. So a lot of the guys were interested in studying the way to process the mind, how to clear your mind from past confusion, how to resurrect the soul to be reborn within yourself. So that's where Scientology started, and then they started selling it, and then it got to be the process. And then the church of the last day, the last judgment, I sent some people to England. I couldn't go myself, but I sent some people there to do some certain things to make an effect, to cause an awakening of an awareness in that. No, Bruce was just one person that went in that direction. There were some other people riding motorcycles that was doing some other things.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and hello, Nemesis and Hades. It's been so long since I've seen you, so it's nice to see you. I tried to schedule this for my people across the pond, so to speak, and Sorry if it's really loud back there. All right, so what I think I want to start with, because we're going to be going through some old Twitter threads, because I've already laid out all of this work and I didn't really feel like taking the Twitter threads and reorganizing them into a presentation. But I have a video that I want to watch. It is from the Danny Jones podcast. It's a clip regarding Tom O'Neill hanging out with Marilyn Manson, because there's some really weird stuff there. We are going to be going through some emails. Yeah, the research team, because this is kind of the hill that I'm going to die on, is, well, let's go ahead and let's hear what Tom had to say. Let's pull up the first video, because let me see. I uploaded these into a Restream, so let's see if it works. This is number 1. All right, so I'm gonna run this clip, and I had to break it up into 2. But this is Tom O'Neill when he was on Rick Rubin's podcast, Tetramagon or Tetranomagon. I can't remember what it's called. And I would ask everybody to implore, especially those of you that have been here for a long time, but those of you that haven't, it's okay, because you're going to see the emails today with his research team. Why he's going on his first podcast appearance in quite some time. This was last year, and is basically doing, in my personal opinion, a shitcoat campaign.
And of course, the Manson family, people believe that they were somehow being manipulated or influenced by the Process Church, which was a satanic church that kind of blossomed in the hate in 67.
What do I know about them? I don't know anything about them.
Oh, gosh. Well, they began in England in like 64, 65, and it was about 20 or 30 Satanists who, were patriarchal. The men were the bosses, the women were slaves. It was communal free sex.
Were they hippies?
No, they were like intellectuals. I spent a lot of time looking into the possibility that they somehow influenced Manson. I could never find anything solid, so I kind of walked away from it. I'm not fresh with the information, but what's interesting is Ed Sanders wrote, the first book about the case was called, his book, The Family. He was reporting on it for the LA Free Press, kind of the underground paper. It came out about a year and a half before Helter Skelter. Sanders had a whole chapter basically saying the process, Manson learned a lot of his mind control and powers from the Process Church and Scientology. So the Process sued him successfully in England, and Sanders had to go over there and testify, and they ended up taking out the chapter from the subsequent copies of, it was ordered removed. And you can
By
get
who?
it by the, well, actually the publisher thought since they were successful in England, they're going to do, they threatened to do it in the States, which is harder to do. I know that because the only compromise I made with the reporting of my book, nothing, Little Brown didn't ask me to take anything out, but my British publishers said we have to remove about 4 or 5 anecdotes about Roman being physically abusive to Sharon.
Okay, so hopefully that worked, because little restream loading is being kind of weird. Okay, so that's completely inaccurate. I don't understand how Tom's research team didn't properly prepare him for that. And again, in my personal opinion, I think that is part of a disinformation campaign. That's a big show, right? That's a big show to go on, Rick Rubin. Because again, when we come back to the Neo process, we're going to be talking about Mr. Rick Rubin, because he's all up in it. But let me see if I have, because I may just end up pulling it up on the Twitters. Ed's lawsuit paperwork from the UK. Let me just pull that up. Let me see. Bear with me for a moment. I was so prepared. I had all my videos loaded, and here I am fumbling already. Let's see. They love to see it, though, don't they? We know the haters do. There we go. Lawsuit. Okay. UK suit 2. I reckon this is the second part. Yep, this is. Okay, so let me get this pulled up, And bada boom, bada bing. Okay. All right, so we're going to see why, his little tomfoolery there, which again, I just take as blatant disrespect and purposeful misinformation to Ed. Your research team has been to these archives. They've at least got files from it. So I don't really get what the deal is. So this is from Ed's files regarding the process, correspondence with Paul Fitzgerald. Okay. So this is just a note that he has here, identifying some folks. I'm not really worried about that. But right here, there we go. Ed. Enclosed is a letter from the London solicitors who were representing your English publishers and the attachment they sent me, the opinion of the English Court of Appeal affirming the jury verdict in the libel case. At last you have been vindicated, at least in England. Best wishes. Sincerely, Paul Fitzgerald. And right here. Dear Mr. Fitzgerald, I am sure you will be pleased to hear that the process failed in their appeal against the jury's verdict, and I enclose a copy of the Times Law Report of the judgments. You will see that you have made legal history. Yours sincerely, R. M. Parrott and A. Ripley, February 4th, 1975. And right here in the law report, January 28, 1975, Court of Appeal, defense lawyers' evidence of beliefs of murderer admissible in libel action. They lost. They lost. Okay, we're not going to sit here and read all of that, but that's what we have. So, why did he fumble with that information so badly? I really have no idea. Again, I don't get it, especially a fellow author, right? Who claims that, he's had to go through these things. You would think that if you studied this case so closely, it took you 20 years, Tom, right? That you would be able to recite some of these things a bit more accurately. I really don't. I don't give you a lot of grace, but that's just me. Obviously, most folks know that I'm pretty critical of his work here. Now, let me pull up the second part of this. Let me see if I can do it properly. Hold on. Un momento. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. You guys are just seeing all kinds of stuff. You guys are seeing behind
Once
the
they
scenes.
started
Maybe
doing
I
the
don't know
second
what
and
you're
third
seeing,
editions, it
actually.
was
But
gone. So they did visit Manson in prison before the trial. He did publish a letter to their followers in their magazine, but I don't think anybody's ever been able to prove to my satisfaction that they had any significant relationship. What's interesting, though, is they disbanded in, I think, the 80s, and they still exist, but they're a very well-known animal rights group with a farm in upstate New York. And it's the original founders. They're all now, if they're alive in their 80s, running this sanctuary for dogs and cats and animals.
'80s. That's moving the goalpost pretty far. That's moving the goalpost pretty far for me. And yes, Rick Rubin claimed that he had not heard of the process, but he's close with Genesis Peerage, all of that. Absolutely. You guys know what's up. These people, I hope it's becoming blatantly clear that these people think that you're stupid, right? That's what I've said from the jump. These people think that you're dumb and that you're not going to figure this stuff out. Now, I'm going to show you guys. Let's just start with the emails, because guess what? We're also going to be looking at a video from Mr. John Atack. We haven't heard that name in quite some time, but let's get this pulled up. Okay, so this one right here, between me and one of Tom O'Neill's research team. Dana, excellent podcast tonight. I assume you saw part 3 of Joshua Zeman's Sons of Sam documentary. I hadn't seen it at this time, right? But he's referencing a letter that Manson wrote to Ed in 1981. Manson claimed he attended a party with Robert de Grimston at the Polanski residence just months before the murder of Sharon Tate. I posted that clip from the documentary on my Facebook page about 2.5 years ago. And is this going to let me zoom in a little bit? Can I? I don't think that I can. It says, was this where Manson, DeGrimston, and Polanski hatched their scheme? Oh, that's not a bad question, right? It's not a terrible question. But why would Tom O'Neill's research team be asking that if the conclusion is that to Tom's satisfaction, that wasn't the case, right? Because this is according to Tom. Now, the letter that he refers to, I'm going to show you guys in a second, because all I could find from Ed's files was just a little part of it, and it's kind of hard to read. But let's go ahead and let's bring in the Son of Sam stuff into it, right? Because again, I hadn't seen the Sons of Sam at that time. I didn't have access to Netflix, and someone ripped the videos and sent it to me. So let's go ahead and read the next one. And I'm not going to sit here and read the entire thing, however, and I've already shown this, so I don't care. Do what you're going to do, Team Satan. Come and get me. However, this is not to be shared publicly. This is in regards concerning Maury Terry's estate. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. That's fine. I really don't care. But as you can see right here, we have Tom O'Neill and Josh Zeman in communication back in 2022. Where is it? Right here. Please see the Manson letter attached. Can we jump on a quick call to discuss usage per the Terry estate? Best, Josh. Does anybody else think that's kind of weird? I think it's kind of weird. Now, let's go ahead and look at the letter because I took pictures of it myself when I was at Ed's archive. And again, it's very difficult to read. This is exactly how it was. It was in this big, binder. I know everybody's triggered by the word binder right now because of the Epstein stuff, but right here, again, Robert Moore is a class act punk and made everyone look bad when he got in the movies with the African queen, pulled the covers, every freak in Hollywood, and at DeGrimston's, remember what I told her, and at DeGrimston, remember what I told her at Polanski's party, he changed it, but honey, we knew. What is he talking about? I don't really know. I'm under the assumption that he is talking about Marianne, specifically, especially since he calls Bobby Robert Moore. It's kind of particular, right? It's very interesting. I think it's really, really interesting. I think it's also a little bit sus, a little bit shady, right? A little bit shady. Now, obviously, I'm not just going to sit here and postulate about old emails. This little presentation that I put together, because I liked Parker's style of saving the image and combining it into a PDF. I was like, that's kind of jazzy. I might try that. I've tried it, and it's not great. So we're going to jump between this and the Twitter stuff. But Josh Zeman, as far as I know, the Chaos series, I don't believe he has any connection to it whatsoever. And the stuff with Radical Media, well, we're just waiting on the next little preview from Netflix for the Sons of Sam. For the next Son of Sam one, right? Because that is coming, and yes, I was proven correct. I have all the screenshots saved for a rainy day in regards to, oh, there's no connection to Radical Media. Wah. I was right. Told you so. I was right. But for the people that have been here, you guys have known about this documentary since, July or August? So we've kind of been riding on this train. But let me pull up, I think I have just a couple slides in this one that we can get through. So one of these is from an old Reddit Ask Me Anything that Tom did. Whatever. Let's go ahead and see what he has to say. So the Vaticanator, whatever that username is, very funny. Thanks, Tom. What about the Process Church? How did those connections figure into Manson's scene? They don't make it in your book. They didn't make it into my book because I didn't find any significant connections between the family and the process, just a couple brushes, which was not unusual in LA and San Fran at that time period. 20 years? Okay, 20 years, all right. Well, according to Dr. David Smith, who was working at the Haight Ashbury Free Medical Clinic, he saw clearly Charlie's bus parked outside the process's Oak Street base. So if you're focusing so heavily on, uh, you know, Jolly West and these doctors, this book came out before yours. I don't have the exact date, but you guys can look it up. Coming Down Fast by Simon Wells. Don't you think that's kind of weird? We got to wonder if it's the what did they call it? The P car. Were they also doing creepy crawlies? And I get it. Yeah, there is a lot of crossover. People are hanging out in these weird scenes, these process scenes, you know what I mean? However, at the end of the day, the fact that this is included in here about the process movement and the ties to Charles Manson, let's get real. But you guys know my opinions about this because this has to do with Scientology. I have no idea what slide is next, so let's see. Oh yeah, so this was something from my Twitter. So this is Jack Nicholson's biography. This is Chapter 5, A Brave New World. I think I've discussed this before about Jack Nicholson attending every single day of the trial, and Dennis Hopper, apparently from what I'm told, people out in California have told me that what happened was highly illegal. Dennis Hopper having a private 2-hour meeting with Manson in the courthouse, in the building of the courthouse. And no one knows what that conversation was. My guess is that Jack wasn't there just to watch the fanfare. He was there to make sure that nothing came out about his dear friends. Did Dennis Hopper threaten Charlie? I don't know. Were they trying to intimidate Charlie? I don't know. I think that it's really interesting and also kind of disgusting that in that book, and I highly encourage people to read it if you haven't, because I didn't realize all of the just incestuous nature of these people. But in that book, he lays out, the author, from interviewing people, that Roman thought Sharon was underage, and Cocaine Bob Evans and the head of Playboy International basically arranged that marriage between Roman and Sharon. Now, for those who are familiar with the Manson case, there were a pair of glasses, right? There's a significant lore around a pair of glasses that was left behind at one of the crime scenes. Yeah? Rumor may or may not have it that those glasses look like Cocaine Bob Evans' infamous glasses. Are they? I don't know. But it is absolutely a theory that is out there, and it would make sense that one of his dear friends is there, keeping a close eye. Because it's like, okay, Charlie asks for the Easy Rider team to do his life story in this documentary, what have you, but Roman's very good friends, and Dennis Hopper ends up getting married to Mama Cass, and it's just like, that's a cleanup crew, in my personal opinion, the total cleanup crew. Now, let's go ahead, let's pull up the Twitter really quick. X, whatever, I'm gonna call it Twitter for the rest of my life, and I don't really care because it doesn't matter. So, because I have so many threads on here, and honestly, they're just more well stated. They're more digestible, right? So we'll start with one of the older ones. Because I would ask people, I'm not saying that chaos is garbage, right? And yes, those glasses were made by Dr. Otto. I'm not saying that chaos is garbage. What I am saying is that this is, in my personal opinion, one of those books that you have to look at and see what they don't say, right? It's what they don't say that really matters. And yes, John Waters was at the trial too. He was a processian. He joined the process. I think that John Waters is very entertaining and has a pristine fashion sense. But, yeah, he did join for a time. And whatever. I'm not gonna, go on a John Waters, rampage, because I have bigger fish to fry. I'll tell you why really quick. I was gonna save this till later. So, you guys know Alessandro Papa. So he released that really huge process book. Well, not huge, but pretty big and very, very expensive. It's like $500 at one point that he was charging. Well, my birthday was recently, as some of you guys know, and he did a reprint for a fraction of the price, a tenth of the price, $50. So I splurged. This was what, 2 months ago, and I just got it. Hello, look at that beauty. Oh, it's a real beaut. But guess what? This has literally just complicated my life very much because there's a lot of new information in there. And I feel like I'm going back to the drawing board to start over because there's a lot of crazy stuff in there that I've never seen before and I've never even heard of before. But yeah, let's go ahead and start with this first thread real quick, and then we will move on from there. So, would it change your opinion of an author's work if you learned they, or their research team, were sharing information with the Church of Scientology? 50 years ago, they wanted to control the Manson story. Do you think that that's changed? And whoop, you better stop slowing down. Okay, so right here. The Ministry of Public Relations, Church of Scientology of California, June 29th, 1976. Dear Ed, I don't believe that we've communicated previously. However, I have read The Family, and I note the hellish amount of research that went into the book. One point of interest that we had during this whole affair was Manson's earlier religious training, if any. I gather from your research that his parents had little, if any, religious background, nor did he have any religious ally in his family. For our own information, I was wondering if you would have any data regarding the above, such as the denomination of his parents or any particular religious allies that he had, and what their denominations would have been. I also note that there's possibly no record of his baptismal or communion records. Do any exist? If any of the above is handy, we'd appreciate the information. Sincerely, Reverend Arthur J. Marin, Suslord in his own right. Oh, shut up, quit. They're trying to get me to buy it. This thing keeps popping up. Anyway, so right here. And this was from back in May. This was almost a year ago. Bear in mind, The Family was already published, and he'd beat the process in the UK court by the time of that letter. After seeing Ed Sanders' files for myself, my respect for his work has only grown exponentially. And there's that little stud, little snack attack. As has his efforts with Moriteri's investigation. I'm now of the opinion that the late Timo likely didn't trust anyone and sent folks on rabbit trails on purpose. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I've heard Sanders has his head on a swivel. So can I blame them? No. What I do know now is they were in communication up to the time of Timo's death. Where Sanders gives respect, I do as well. The seemingly consistent thread is Scientology and the process. So, would your opinion of an author's work change if they or their research team were not only sharing information with the Church of Scientology, but were involved in the current Son of Sam disinformation campaign? Mine would and has. Ed Sanders is human, as was Timo, but when information can stand by itself decades later, it deserves acknowledgement and respect. Ed Sanders and Moriteri deserve such respect, in my humble hillbilly opinion. As for the rest, only time will tell. Be mindful of the source, including me. So, that is number one. That's thread number one, right? Because according to, and I'm well aware that they could be lying to me. I'm not stupid. His research team, that person that you saw, Mr. Paul Hart Berger, Mr. Berger, I like to call you by your real name, right? Because you've gone oh so quiet since that discovery. Paul Hart Berger showed me what was supposed to be correspondence with the current CIA of Scientology. the Office of Special Affairs out of Hollywood or Los Angeles. So, do you guys think that Tom O'Neill saying that Manson dabbled in Scientology and that the connections to the process were not sufficient to his standards? Do you think that that's true? Or do you think that he's deciding that it's not worth being honest? And again, this is just my opinion, but I am allowed to state it. Especially with how much time I've put into trying to like flesh out like what is actually going on with these people, because it is like clear obfuscation of information. But let's go here and go to the next thread, because yeah, there were so many screenshots. There was absolutely no way that I was going to go back through this. All right, so let me wet my whistle really quick. I'm going to say hi to the chat, and then we're going to get into thread numero dos. Hello, hello, everybody. Rise to Liberty, Alice Bowie, Whack Beats. Oh, thank you so much. Old weave that I had. Phil Urey, Misty Blue, Tara Jackson, Carl Hassel, Meatball, Mind Hack. Thanks, Mind Hack. I think I caught some of you guys. Okay, I'm not going to scroll back up. Hello, Jack Whiteside Parsons. All right, yeah, I don't want to pull back too much, but let me, and then we'll get into the next thread. Because I am working on, I haven't started like writing it out yet. I'm going to wait until after the series or the show comes out, but I am working on organizing a separate, kind of diversion with the podcast where we're going to sit there and do a real deep cut of all of this. Because today's not a super deep cut. Okay. This is just kind of a refresher of the basics, because I know that the propaganda is powerful, and I watched the preview for that, and I was just like, they're not even going to bring up the process. They're not even going to bring it up. Hello, Martin Carson. They're not even going to bring it up. I know that. I don't know that, but I highly suspect it. But, 20 years, right? 20 years. Whatever. Where did I get the book? That's a great question. I was looking, I think I was on Brave, the Brave browser, and I think I just put in his name, so it's Alessandro Papa. It really bugged me out having an envelope with his handwriting, writing out my name, coming all the way from Italy. But yeah, it was like 50 or $55 altogether. It took a long time to get here, but here I'll show you guys a little picture really quick, because sorry, I know I'm diverting for the people that are like, just talk about chaos. Shh, hold please. Let me show you guys one picture that I thought was really crazy. I should have probably bookmarked it, you big dummy. Oh, and for anyone that's wondering, yes, Alessandro Papas is absolutely a processian, 110%. Freaking loves it. But now I have the real deep stuff about some of their theology, and it gets real weird. Where's that damn picture of the freaking car? Hold on. I know it's in here somewhere. I'm gonna find it. Where are you? Close. I'm close. Okay, getting there. Maybe not. Where are you? If I can't find it, I'm gonna scream. Hold on. I really should have bookmarked this. There it is. Okay, so right here. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that. Okay, can you see that? Look at that. Look at it. It's a freaking, they had their own like little Brinks truck of the process. I've never seen that crap before. That's it. Thank you so much, Jack Whiteside Parsons. That's the link. The Kali Yuga editions. Yes. It looks shady. It absolutely looks super shady. I was like, I don't really know if I want to give. I might not get that money back. It took a while to get here, but like them having that, I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, there's just a lot of really crazy stuff in that book, and when I say that I'm going to be talking about this forever, I'm literally going to be talking about this forever. I mean, here's the thing, Rise to Liberty, about Tom possibly being threatened. Maybe. However, Ed was threatened back then. So that argument doesn't fly with me too much. And Tom's resume, particularly working at the Village Voice, the same Village Voice that Tony Ortega used to work at, I have a feeling that Mr. Paul Hart Berger, his brother, Fred Berger, propaganda magazine creator, I have a feeling that Tom O'Neill maybe has a much longer history with what some of these, what some people might call the Neo process. Because that's my opinion. I think that Tom knew some of these folks and he goes, that's going to lead down a path that I don't really want to talk about, right? That's just my opinion, though. And we're going to talk about who sent him on the path with Jolly West, because I think it's really interesting, especially for the people that love to hate on Maury. But let's go to the next one, because Mr. Berger, you're up. So, I love waking up to an inbox of hot tea. A brief receipt thread that might give an idea. There are many. I debunked Tom O'Neill's narrative about Ed Sanders recently as to why Chaos nor Tom O'Neill will be discussing the Process Church of the Final Judgment. So I quote tweeted that, and this is from June. The dates will be out of order, but it is necessary for clarification. June 30th, 2022, one member of Tom's research team states that he's been working with Tom on his follow-up book to Chaos, replying to one Manny Grossman and John Catalano. And there it is right there about the Manson case. When the family scrawled political piggy on Gary Hinman's wall, they weren't saying we murdered Gary. They were trying to frame the Black Panthers, whom they thought were after them. Okay. Jump to November 9th, 2023, which is amusing because this person has indeed sent me information, but completely denies doing research for Tom O'Neill roughly a year and a half later. Leash asking, what type of research did you do for Tom, or is that just a rumor? Never worked for Tom. That's why you won't find my name in the credits for Chaos. Like anyone, if I find interesting info or documents, I'll pass them along. I send some things to Carl Denaro also. Doesn't mean I work for him. Dana too. I send her items on Manson. December 24th, 2022. Ed is referred to as Ed Satanic Panic Sanders. What wild, baseless speculations he's referring to, I have no idea, because right here, the gardener either gets suspended or deletes his accounts on Clockwork. This is what happens when you present wild, baseless speculation as fact. Had the Process Church still existed when he started writing about them, we would have seen the same result as Ed Satanic Panic Sanders. June 30th, 2022. There's that hard propaganda line. The Process disbanded in 1974. Of course. Silly me. Except for Tom just said in the 80s, right? But here he is talking to John Catalano and Manny Grossman. I never believed the Process had any involvement with the Son of Sam case, however. The Process had dissolved by 1974. We have an interesting report from Detective Paul Whiteley saying de Grimston was back in London by early 1969, where he had a meeting with Manson family member Bruce Davis. Okay. Tom had several conversations with Maury Terry because obviously Manson figures in the Ultimate Evil book. Though Tom liked Maury very much, he never found evidence of a national network of Process-inspired satanic killings. Thanks for the shit coat ball. June 21st, 2021. Or are there other numerous reasons why chaos is the ultimate Scientology process limited hangout? Someone named Infinity Rising who wants to join my society, my secret society. And he says, let's bring back the process Church of the Final Judgment. Paul, you silly goose, you know that they're still around. We've all seen the character assassination of the late T-Mo Moritari. Below is a note from Ed Sanders, August 11th, 2014, regarding a phone call from Maury about James Franco being optioned for an HBO series about the ultimate evil. I am told the Honorable Mayor, Detective James Jimmy Boots Rothstein, has alluded to this too. And there is the letter. And just as a side note, though people have attempted to slander Rothstein's name as well, a brief overview of his career speaks for itself. Not going to sit here and read that. James Franco did indeed create a series called The Ultimate Evil. The entire thing is about 45 minutes long and a complete bastardization of Maury's work. One could say parody, but that would imply that it's funny. It isn't. And we went over this with a review from a friend of the channel who broke down the episodes and came to a fascinating conclusion. What was presented by HBO, starring James Franco, is The Deuce. The basic premise of the show is much of what both Maury and Rothstein investigated. When presenting this information on YouTube, it was obvious to some viewers where the plot line originated from. Yes, the HBO series The Deuce has elements of the ultimate evil all over it. If you've read the book, you'll recognize them in this show, especially in the last season. Matty the Horse Iannello appears as a character, and he ran all of the peep shows, porn shops, and gay leather bars downtown, especially the Anvil, which Andrew Crispo went to. Considering James Franco's involvement with the series and his previous attachment to optioning Moritari's book, it doesn't surprise me that the show reflects the same milieu as the Ultimate Evil. I haven't finished the series, but in the opening scene of the first episode, I immediately noticed Rothstein's work on display. A young girl from Minnesota is picked up by a pimp at a bus station. Eventually, girls are sent home to recruit their friends, and I include a little snippet here from Rothstein in regards to what was referred to as the Minnesota Strip. The first 15 minutes, for anybody who has seen that show, this is literally Rothstein's work, if you know what he's talked about. When I finish the series, I'll give my thoughts. However, is it fair to ask if it's a conflict of interest that one of Tom's researchers worked on the set of The Deuce? And there's old Freddie Boy right there. And Paul says, yes, I did get one of these chairs for my hard work and dedication. Asking for a friend. The information about The Deuce was presented here, thanks to Parker and Operation Garbage Can Dude, but I did not have the aforementioned commentary and later denial about Tom O'Neill and Chaos. There's numerous reasons why the process won't be discussed factually. This is, in my opinion, only one of those reasons. Stay noited, y'all. So, that's another one. Okay? That's another reason. This does cross over into the Son of Sam. Not only in the public eye, but behind the scenes. Right? And it is very strange, in my personal opinion, that there's not more transparency from these individuals. Not that I expect it, but I can't look at any of this and take any of it seriously when I know that these people are working behind the scenes and playing games and also communicating with the Office of Special Affairs. Now, the Church of Scientology, their CIA now. Because I'm going to pull up one of these presentations. I pulled some of the stuff from the Operation Snow White raid. But we're going to watch two videos first. Let's go ahead and... Did I not upload that one? You little dirty Daniel. I don't think that I did. We watched those two. Hold on. I thought I had a third one about... let me see. Bear with me. Uno momento. Talk amongst yourselves. I've been watching a lot of that, what is it? Michael Myers on Saturday Night Live Coffee Talk. I've been watching a lot of those. I thought I had another clip there. Maybe Let me pull up my YouTube. Hold on. Because we still got some more stuff to get through. Sorry, guys. I tried to be prepared. Let me see. Uno momento. I wish I had the Jeopardy music to put on. There it is. Beautiful. BEA beautiful. Let's get that downloaded. Thank you. And we're good. We're Gucci. We're golden. We're living and we're learning. All right, let me add this one in. All right, so for the people out here that want to, disparage Maury Terry because what? He didn't like you? Okay, I don't care. Or the people that he got his information from, you think that they're not credible? Okay, well, again, do I believe that it took 20 years for somebody who was involved in the New York scene with the Village Voice? Possibly the exact same scene that we just kind of read about from The Ultimate Evil? I'm not saying definitively. It's a fair theory, though, considering Fred Berger, right? Right, Paul? Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and see what Tom had to say about the major topic of his book. Hold on. You guys are seeing all the stuff behind the scenes.
Two times I met with him in
There we
2000.
go.
He brought up MK Ultra and told me a little bit.
This is Ted Gunderson.
Ted Gunderson, yeah, a little bit more about it than I knew. And he said you should look into a psychiatrist named Louis Jolyon West. And I said I actually interviewed him about 5 years ago.
How do we know about Jolly's relationship to the CIA?
So Ted Gunderson told me to look into him at that meeting, and I told him more. I said, wow, I interviewed him about the stalking phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back and listen to his interview because I never even listened to it. And I had the tape transcribed. I still had it. There was nothing interesting in there. Oh, I looked him up and found out he had died, I think, within months of me learning about him.
Okay, so Ted Gunderson of COINTELPRO. Now, look, I'm not saying that all the information from Ted was bad. I'm not saying that at all. But that's out of Tom O'Neill's own mouth. That the focus of the entire thing, where he's eliminating the well-documented ties to the process, to Scientology, that his main lead was Ted Gunderson. I have seen people mock Maury for using Ted Gunderson. Now look, Ted Gunderson's a shady guy. I think he's very complicated. Not here to get into it. You know, his relationship with Michael Riconciuto, I think that that's shady as hell. But that's a conversation for another time because, you know, in the podcast, I'm going to get into the stuff with Danny Casolaro's sister being in Haight-Ashbury at that time. Now, let me pull up the next thread because I don't really want to listen to ATAC's voice yet. I'm sorry. We're sorry. Let's go ahead and see here. I think this one is... Yeah. This is going to have a couple of repeaters on here. However, it's still important. And again, sorry for the people that have seen this. It's a refresher, but I know a lot of folks aren't on X. So let's go ahead and get a refresher about Paul Hartberger's brother. And you can tell me if you think that maybe this would influence the final result of the book. Netflix is releasing both a Chaos and Son of Sam documentary the end of this year and next. I was wrong about it being released at the end of Chaos at the end of last year, but whatever. Is there no cross-referencing to address conflicts of interest in overlapping areas of research, like one of Tom O'Neill's researcher's brothers acknowledging the Son of Sam cult? And right here, The Devil's Minstrel. This is written by Fred H. Berger, talking about Untermeyer Park and the location of animal sacrifices and other satanic rites in the 1970s, including activities involving the Son of Sam and his fellow cult members. Huh. Okay. So, are you just BSing us? Or whatever. So I requote that, I think. Yeah, that's a requote. Yep. Okay, so let's keep going. Paul, who is the core focus of the original thread, has worked with both Tom O'Neill and Manny Grossman. The new Son of Sam documentary is supposed to provide an alternative view to the first one, with Mr. Grossman making an appearance to discuss the unproven Wendy Savino shooting. I can't remember who made me this meme on X, but God bless you. It makes me laugh every single time. Love the Best Friends logo. Primarily, Paul lists his last name as Hart. He is cited as such in his brother's magazine Propaganda, where he is listed as managing editor. So, propaganda editor in chief Fred Berger and managing editor Paul Hart in Hollywood in August of 1989. Okay, that's definitely them. And again, can't find his name in Chaos, but guess what? You also don't find his name anywhere for the Deuce either, because I have hunted all over Hell's Half Acre. So that argument don't fly with me. And here, however, he's bragged about earning his chair on the set of The Deuce, which I've discussed as the starting point of the sabotage of the late Maury Terry's research files. Below, his brother Fred chimes in. Paul Hart talking about his last night on shooting The Deuce. This was September 7th, 2018, and Fred says, very authentic recreation of 1970s New York. Hookers, homeless, and lots of garbage. Ha ha. Okay. Wonder if Tom was out there. So, back to Chaos, a blog post. Oliver Stone's a scholar. Paul H. Berger asks a very specific question about Charles Manson and Jolly West on November 20th of 2020. Paul Hart asks a more refined question about the same topic 4 months later, asking about proof that Manson had ever met Dr. West. So see Paul Hart Berger and then Paul Hart. You see the switch? And this is a public blog. So you put out your email right here. I was polite enough to redact it from this thing that I uploaded, but that's you. Why the name game? Because Paul and Fred are twins. Yes, they are twins. Yes, they are. Do I find it strange that Fred H. Berger would acknowledge the Son of Sam cult and their animal sacrifices and rituals in Untermeyer Park? No. Fred was running in the same scenes as Robert Mapplethorpe and Andrew Crispo. Propaganda magazine highlights much of this. And there is a very young Fred H. Berger, 1985, outside the legendary Danceteria in Lower Manhattan. The Goth Bible, Fred H. Berger on Propaganda Magazine. So let's pull this part up. I want to read it because it's very interesting. The past 21 years have altered Fred. In a burst of idealistic naivete, I started down this long, winding, and perilous path. Propaganda magazine has given me the opportunity to travel the globe in an attempt to escape the gravitational pull of bland reality, to seek out the exotic, the hidden, the depraved, and otherworldly. But it has cost me my virtue, my vitality, and my hope for the future. I've essentially shot my bolt, having reached beyond where any man should ever reach, having seen what no man should ever see. Beauty in extremis, writhing limbs and lapping tongues on crowded dance floors at the four corners of the earth, sex in cemeteries, nocturnal wanderings along streets littered with spent needles and condoms, drinking to the health of the Buddha, gasping for air in the belly of the beast. Perhaps the chaplain was right. Perhaps I should have listened to my mother. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world but lose his own soul? All is vanity. Indeed. Indeed. Amen. All is vanity. Correct. What I do find surprising is the lack of disclosure of what some would call a clear conflict of interest. In my recent stream, The Process Church of the Final Judgment, Girls Gone Wild, I showed that Tom's guy DM'd me with a request prior to me going live. It's the audacity for me, bro. This request included files from Ed Sanders' archives, which, many of you know, I have visited twice this year. I also have personal knowledge and receipts of active processians visiting these archives as well. What's the point? If one of Tom O'Neill's researchers has access to Ed's files and is attempting to send me leads regarding the process, yet mocks Ed Satanic Panic Sanders, Paul's nickname, do you expect me or anyone to believe Tom O'Neill is not aware he's spewing blatant lies on his PR tour? And that's what we just talked about. Propaganda remains a massive counterculture publication. I ask myself if Tom's relationships in the Hollywood and New York scene crossed over with the propaganda crowd and therefore the Berger brothers. Their self stated timelines allow for such consideration. And yes, they do. You can find this on Tom O'Neill's website, where he sits here and gives his little history or, resume of his work. I don't think it's an unfair question to ask, especially when we're talking about the Village Voice where Tony Ortega used to work. And if you're familiar with Scientology, then you know who he is. Netflix has shown its lack of due diligence with their first Sons of Sam documentary. I have email correspondence between the director of that series, Tom O'Neill, and Paul Hart. Is there no integrity in discussing these seemingly unrelated cases? Are these the gatekeepers of information? I include the octopus murders pictured with Tom below, as the series didn't mention Danny's sister who died in Haight-Ashbury, which seems relevant regarding Michael Reconciuto, the informant watching Manson, and Abigail Folger. And there is Tom hanging out with the boys. And for those who want to trash Maury because Reconciuto was a source of information for him, recommended by Ted Gunderson, guess what? Tom O'Neill said Ted insisted he look into Jolly West. We just listened to that. There is an abundance of statements, records, and witness testimony regarding the process's involvement in both the Manson and Son of Sam crimes, so one source coming from Mr. COINTELPRO himself doesn't cut it when that didn't dictate the ultimate evil. I can't say the same for chaos. I can't make anyone care. However, I'd like this streaming service to pause and reflect on the many mistakes that resulted in the character assassination of the late Maury Terry, to not let it happen to Ed Sanders, to not promote the unproven crime pinned on David Berkowitz. I hope those that have a true interest in these admittedly niche areas of research will speak up, will not take those involved at their word, as I've shown that there has been no correction of any record. This was in August. Today is February 28th. This is still true, and will reconsider where they spend their money for entertainment. So, that's that thread. Now, whatever. You guys are seeing stuff that I've already shown you, except for you got to hear it that time, right? I'm going to state my opinion without digressing too much. There are parties out here, like in the parapolitical research, whatever, that just love shitting, excuse my French, on Maury, on Ed. Why is no one taking Tom O'Neill to task for saying that Ted Gunderson was his biggest lead? I would also like to point out, too, that, Dr. Wendy Painting did a much better job about Jolly West. I'm sorry. And this is my personal opinion, I do believe that part of the angle of chaos in regards to painting Jolly as like the architect of this entire thing, I think that part of it is to leave Jolly in the past, to leave him there, so that stuff like what Dr. Wendy Painting has brought forth about Jolly West's involvement with Timothy McVeigh specifically, that people won't really look at that, or, not necessarily not take it seriously, because I know a lot of people do take her work seriously, and they should. She's a badass woman. However, it almost feels like, no, that's in the past. We leave that in the past. We're sticking to these timelines. 74. Church committee hearings. Process is ending. Except for, Tom slips up with his little timeline there with Mr. Rick Rubin himself. Now, let's go ahead and let's pop over and let's bring in the ex-Scientologist. This is just a brief clip, but the insistence of it, just look at John's face, okay? Just look at John's face. Hold on, let me add this into a different scene. Wait, no. You know what? We're gonna actually no, I think I have to do that. You guys are seeing all the behind the scenes stuff. Hold on. Media. I'm not gonna say I'm prepared because I really thought I was. I was like, man, I got all my stuff uploaded. I'm good.
And let me say up
Why aren't you
front,
clicking?
there is no, even though they may have walked the same corridors, there is no connection that I'm aware of between the Church of Scientology or any of its many hundreds of groups, the Religious Technology Center, the Church of Spiritual Technology, or the International Finance Police. There is no connection that I've found between any official Scientology organization and Charles Manson. There is no suggestion that anybody in the Scientology organization was directing Manson in any way, no more than Jolly West was.
Right.
Lies. In my opinion, lies, documented lies. So let's go to, let me find the Guardian's office document because we have talked about some of this stuff, but I think I've got one highlighted here. So let's go ahead and pull this bad boy up. All right, so they can say that all they want, but here's the thing that people need to remember, okay? There was a E-meter or P-scope, I think it was a P-scope, that was found at Spawn Ranch upon the arrest, right, when they raided the ranch. The DeGrimstons, I've covered this in the podcast, they're declared but never attacked. They only are targeted after the Manson crimes. Make it make sense. There's no way when we see how much they're keeping track of Lanier Raymer and Marilyn and Charles Manson's movements, that they're not aware of what they're doing. And I fully believe that there is much more documentation about the process that Mr. I have these red box documents and I'm the gatekeeper of Scientology and Charles Manson because I love, Jolly West and I have to protect his good name. Because let's not forget, John Atack has said that. He's defended literal criminals who were sanctioned by the US government under not just the MK Ultra program, because there's a very good likelihood that Jolly, along with Martin Orne and Margaret Sanger, were working for the Office of Naval Intelligence. I know that Martin Orne was, for a fact, okay? And I got that from Ed. So don't forget that these people are protecting individuals who perfected and created torture and created some of these individuals. And then when things started going to shit and the church committee hearings happened, what did they all do? They turned around and used the exact same technology to create cult deprogramming. This includes Stephen Hassan, who I have done a full deep dive of all of his BS as well. Because anybody who is out here believing cult experts, I would highly caution you to look into their credentials, because that is what these individuals do. They take the techniques that were created from the architects of torture, pain, the shit that goes on at Guantanamo Bay, that kind of stuff, and they turned it around and they made their money in the anti-cult movement. Okay? This is just historically speaking, this is just facts. Okay? And yeah, no, he loves Jolly West, but that's because Jolly West helped create his career. It actually helped fund it with Margaret Sanger. But that's a conversation for another day. So let me see if we can zoom in here. All right, so This is June 22nd, 1970. What is this? DG Intel US Compliance Report. Manson and Bruce Davis. Here, talking about Steve Grogan, appeared on our lines. I received word that he had made statements that he was a member of Manson's family and therefore started some intel action, which at first consisted of talking to the girls he had been in contact with. By the time I had finished talking to them, Grogan had been put away in jail for car theft. In spite of numerous efforts on our part, it was impossible to get together with him. Why would they want to get together with him? This is June 22nd, 1970. If there's nobody keeping an eye on Manson, then why do they care? Johnny Attack, I think that you don't know what you're talking about, right? But right here. Of course, we did not want it known that a member of the church was trying to see him. At the same time, this was going on, we received word that two members of the Manson family, Squeaky Fromm and Sandy Good, were staying at the Viking Motel on 3rd and Alvarado, which is in close proximity to the org. We made no attempts to contact them. On June 18th, 1980, the following report was received by me. Report of an interview with Raul Morales, re Charles Manson. According to Raul, he arrived in prison on McNeil Island, Washington in 1962 and became a cellmate of Lafayette Raymer, allegedly a trained Scientology auditor, about level 1 in Raul's estimation, and was introduced to Scientology at that time. Raymer was auditing in prison at that time and in one 10-man cell had managed to gather a group of about 7, all in Scientology. Charles Manson entered later and studied, did TRO, etc., along with his cellmates and received approximately 150 hours of auditing from Raymer. I'm highlighting the word process here because, yeah, it's the process also had their weird little prison program. So who's to say that this wasn't the process? Process is used where CCH, I don't know what that means, help processes, who have you helped, who have you not helped, and other dichotomy processes, Raoul's terms, such as what can you confront, what would you rather not confront? Havingness, such as what can you have, look around and find something you can have. Look around and find something you're not in. Rayner kept records of his auditing. Manson got super energetic and flipped out when he'd been audited and would, for a time, talk about nothing but Scientology to the extent that people avoided his company. After a while, however, Manson was screaming to get away from his auditor. In Raoul's opinion, he'd been severely overrun or something. He eventually managed to get put in solitary confinement to get away from his auditor. Eventually, prison officials got suspicious of the group's strange activities and broke up the group. Subsequently, Raoul was released from the prison in 1965. One more time. Nobody's watching Manson? I disagree. The next sentence is why. Raymer's wife was in training here at the LA org in 1965 and 1966. She had disconnected from Raymer. Okay, that's why you guys are keeping an eye on him. Raoul just found out yesterday that another friend, Marvin White, later sent Manson books after the Scientology group was broken up on hypnotism, black magic, and the letter cuts off. The letter cuts off, right? Now, that's not the only T that we have from that. Let me find the screenshot of it because I don't think that it's going to pull up big enough here because I know I talked about it in a recent podcast episode. Wow, I can't even get my words out about, there it is. And I showed you guys, I think, a little bit of it. Where is it? Yeah, okay. So, in regards to Manson getting Scientology auditing in prison, the whole 150 hours, making him go nuts. The stuff about the Manson and LSD thing, this is what I got from Tom O'Neill's research team. This is the OSA file that was sent to me. So, again, this is my little collage, whatever, that I made, but right over here. Possibilities read near Raymer. Right here. Talking about where they're in Washington State. Manson may have been fed LSD per a report we have, and then freaked out and wanted to get away from his auditor. I'm not sure on the exact sequence of events. In the remainder of that correspondence with the Office of Special Affairs, I don't know if I said Guardian's office. If I didn't mean to. They reportedly told Tom O'Neill's research team that Manson said that he left his soul in the hole. Yeah, left his soul in the hole. So I don't really know what John Atack is on about. Not quite sure. Again, I think that it would be really fantastic if this information was, released to the public. I think that it is in the public interest of this stuff being released. Yeah? And again, it's just my opinion. But I want to go through this next I'm going to show you this one post because I'm not going to go through the whole thing with Berger, Hart, whatever. But when I did go through it, showing the connections with like Adam Parfrey, Feral House, more so like the Neo process scene and the stuff with, Marilyn Manson, because we do have a clip that I need to pull up and show you guys. But let's go ahead and look at this really quick because they all do know each other, right? So George Lawrence Petros, he founded Exit magazine with Adam Parfrey and Kim Seltzer. He was senior editor of Propaganda, right? Founded by Fred H. Berger. He is the author of Art That Kills, a panoramic portrait of aesthetic terrorism, 1984 to 2001. So, I mean, I guess that, like, that's cool. This gives off kind of I don't know, smiley face killers and or whatever the hell was going on in that house, reportedly, allegedly. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't have the answers for people. Now, let me pull up this clip about Tom talking about spending the night at Manson's house. And this was actually something that had been brought to my attention by Soil Lodge a long time ago. I was going to pull the clip and just upload it in, but I don't know how Danny Jones is. So, I mean, whatever, like Danny Jones is the ultimate limited hangout. Let me find it. Why is it not there? Hold on, let me see. Tom O'Neill, Marilyn Manson. Had it saved on that little list. Let me start it over. That way we can get the sound right, because you guys know I'm not good at sharing videos, right? So hopefully it's not too loud. Let's see. I pray. All right, you guys got to tell me if it's too loud. Let's share the screen and the audio. Here we go. Okay, and we're off. Tell me if it's too loud.
So you like my shirt? Marilyn Manson?
Yeah, you got to be careful with your where you wear a shirt like that right now, because he's been canceled, I believe.
Yeah, he's been canceled, officially canceled.
Yeah. And you're a big fan?
I've always been a big fan of Marilyn Manson. Yes, since I was a little kid. The first thing I ever saw was when he did like the MTV Music Awards or whatever. I think I was maybe 10 years old. Something like that, really young, and I was super intrigued and followed his music ever since.
Yeah, well, I mentioned
he may have been a piece of shit person behind doors, but my opinion on it, my far away 20,000 foot opinion on it is that if you're getting into a relationship, a romantic relationship with that guy, you kind of have to have an idea what to expect. It's not going to be normal.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I think the visit was kind of. I mentioned earlier that he invited me up to his house in. I think it was last February.
Did he really?
I can't even remember now. It was well before the scandal.
After your book came out.
He had the book, and he started reaching out to my agent to see if I would meet with him. And he was so cryptic in emails that my agent didn't think it was really him. And he told his secretary to get rid of him, and she was a fan. So she said, if I get on the phone with him, I'll know whether it's him or not.
Yeah.
And she got on the phone with him, and she said, it's him. And he just said, I would love to have him come to my house. I have something to show him that I don't think he knows about or that he's ever seen before, and it terrifies me to even possess it. So he said you could call him. So he and I got on the phone. He didn't think it was safe to tell me what he had on the phone. He wanted me to come see or hear it. He was being very vague. And the fact is, he didn't need anything. I mean, I love going into unusual situations. And I thought, I wasn't a huge fan. You know, I actually became a little bit of one when I did some homework. But my collaborator is a musician. He's an ex-drummer, and he loved him. And he had just finished and published a book on Prince where he was working with Prince on his memoir, and then Prince died. It's actually how I got him as my collaborator, because when Prince died, their project came to a screeching halt, and then he had to wait a year or two to figure out whether or not he had enough material to finish the book without Prince. But I told Dan, my collaborator, I said, how would you like to go with me to Marilyn Manson's? I don't know if I want to go up there alone. And he goes, are you kidding me? So he got on a plane just to go up there. So we went to the castle in the hills, and he, I don't know if he's ever going to listen to this.
No, he won't. I've been trying to get him on this for years. And he'll never do it.
Number one, I did love the guy, but he didn't have anything. What he had was an audio tape that he thought he had found in the house. He lived at the Tate House where the murders happened. He and Trent Reznor moved into
they recorded an album there, right?
Yeah, well, they were living there and recording an album.
Right.
And while they were there, he found stuff that had been like left behind by the previous owner and tenants. And one of them was an audio tape of Roman Polanski's police interrogation. And I had it already, you know, and and you can get it. I had it actually 20 years before, when nobody had it. But in the last 5 or 6 years, it somehow got out, and there are bootlegs, and you can buy it online.
Right.
So it was difficult because Marilyn was, you know, already partying. We didn't even. He said, "Don't come before 11 o'clock at night." So we got up there at 11, and it was actually a historic night if you're a fan, because it was the first time he and his guitarist, who he threw out of the band a number of years before, Twiggy, were together, and they had reconciled recently, but they hadn't met yet. So he invited Twiggy over to hang out with me and Dan and him and talk about Manson. And Twiggy, I guess, had been through rehab and everything.
Yeah.
They were both really sweet guys, but Twiggy was sober. And Marilyn has this amazing screening room that feels more like a harem, unsurprisingly. There's no furniture. You just sit on pillows, and it's pitch black. And there's this huge, what would have been a huge, beautiful window with a view of the valley, because he's high up in the hills, but it's all blacked up with bricks. Because I think all the windows in his house were like that. I'm not 100% sure. So we just spent like 3 hours talking about the book, and he was trying to find the point in the tapes that he said, well, even if I had them, you probably don't have this. And I'm pretty sure I do, Marilyn. And then I thought, well, I'm just going to humor him. I didn't mind. We were still having fun.
Right.
And, but thank God for Twiggy, because Marilyn didn't know how to operate any of the technical stuff. So Twiggy was going through everything. And
were they just little like cassette tapes, or?
Yeah, they were cassette tapes. And we finally, when we were done listening to them at about 3 or 4 in the morning, let's just say there was a lot of substances offered to us, and Dan and I were on an adventure, so we accepted them. Twiggy stayed away from everything.
Right.
And I think he left at about 3 in the morning, and then the even better stuff came out, because he didn't want to have to
tempt Twiggy.
Yeah. And then at about 7 in the morning, I said to Dan, I go, because Dan's 20 years younger than me, I said, Dan, if I do any more of this stuff, I'm going to have a massive heart attack or a stroke. I go, I can't die at Marilyn Manson's house. He's got enough problems, you know, with that happening.
Oh, my God.
So we literally left, I think, at 7 or 7:30 in the morning. And it was fun. I mean, the one thing I can tell you about him, since you are a fan, is he's one of the smartest guys and funniest. I mean, he could be a stand-up comic. The problem was he was so kind of, let's say, feeling good, that he slurs a lot, and he also talks under his breath, and he's not performative. he'll just say these off-the-wall remarks that almost make you piss in your pants. And I missed so much because he was slurring a lot. And I thought, this guy could have a whole, like, 10 other careers. I know he acts now, but, you know, he's a really intelligent guy. And, you know, he was having problems with his fiancée then. It was the night before the Oscars. And they had had a huge fight because they disagreed on what he was going to wear to the Oscar party. They weren't going to the Oscars, but they were going to the big Vanity Fair.
Okay, so there's an idea of Tom getting, I guess, Whitney Houston, you could say, with that crowd. I have a lot of feelings about a lot of that stuff, but what I am going to show you guys, and these are just a few brief things, and these were sent to me by Echo Cat because, as someone had pointed out in the chat, yeah, not only do we have, you know, Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, Genesis Peorage was there as well, you know, in the Cielo Drive house. Again, when we get back to the Neo process, you have to ask yourself, isn't it a little bit strange that Tom is hanging out with one of the members of, well, I mean, Manson says himself it's the Process Church of the Final Judgment. He doesn't call it the Neo process, but there's a lot of weird crossover, right? And look, I'm going to preface with this. I don't hate Marilyn Manson's music. I think that people should listen responsibly, right? People are allowed to enjoy things, though. I'm not going to think less of somebody because of their, you know, musical taste. It is what it is. You can be a responsible listener, and that's fine. So I'm not here to make anybody feel bad, and that's not my intention at all. But we are going to look at some of this stuff. And yes, exactly. Yeah, we're gonna get into this part right here because getting canceled, that's a joke. That's a complete joke. So let's go ahead and let's look at some of this stuff that our dear friend Soil Lodge sent. These are some of the old flyers from back in the day, and they're a little bit graphic. It's just kind of weird, right? Kind of weird. Kids, naked Marilyn Manson, and the Salvation Hotline. That's going to become a bit more relevant. Here is another flyer. Manson and the Spooky Kids live in Satanovision. That's how I want to say that. Obviously, you know, being kind of edgelord like Jones Aid, and there's, you know, LaVey, and call the Spooky Kids hotline, right? And then here's another one, Manson and the Spooky Kids, with Sharon Tate and Manson's heads switched. And again, right here, Spooky Kids hotline, right? So let's keep going. Marilyn Manson, share the filth. And I mean, I really have nothing to say. Cum guzzling special guests, livid kittens, and jack off Jill. All ages, right? And then live in Pornovision. All ages. Okay, that's nice. That's really lovely. So we'll keep going down here. If you will notice, right here in the balloon, that is the Son of Sam logo. Kind of weird. Also, the very well-known, per the FBI's own internal documents from WikiLeaks, boy lover logo. Okay? And again, the Spooky Kids hotline, right? So, here is another flyer or little magazine rip. And again, this is much clearer. Son of Sam logo, Daisy Berkowitz, Madonna Wayne Gacy, what is that, Gidget Geen, and Sarah Lee Lucas. Yeah, you know, it's just, and Howdy from Spawn Ranch, right? It's just hilarious. Yeah, okay. I get like being an edgelord, but it's like once you know what these people are into, it's not funny. So right here, and I don't have the exact time frame of when this post was, but in regards to talking about the allegations against Marilyn Manson, one more thing: the girl he picked to sexually assault completely at the Smells Like Children encounter, was about 14, had long curly hair and braces. He chose her out of all of us specifically because of the braces and how young she looked and was. This was before he became very famous again, 1995. That girl is now deceased as well. This is something he has been doing for a long, long time. Please be warned. And this is an excerpt from an article discussing the case against Brian Warner, aka Marilyn Manson. In the lawsuit, Doe says she first encountered Warner in 1995 after a Dallas concert when she was 16. She had waited outside his tour bus with a group of people to meet him, and he allegedly invited her and one of the other younger girls onto his bus, where he asked their age and school grade and took down their home addresses and phone numbers. While on the tour bus, defendant Warner performed various acts of criminal sexual conduct upon the plaintiff, who was a virgin at the time, including, but not limited to, forced copulation and vaginal penetration, the lawsuit claims. The age of consent in Texas at the time was and still is 17. One of the band members watched defendant Warner sexually assault plaintiff, the suit says. Plaintiff was in pain, scared, upset, humiliated, and confused. After he was done, defendant Warner laughed at her. Then defendant Warner demanded plaintiff to get the fuck off my bus and threatened plaintiff that if she told anyone, he would kill her and her family. And this is a screenshot that was shared. I'm assuming this is from an Instagram story. Again, from Soil Lodge. I am proud of Evan Rachel Wood and all of the other survivors and witnesses that have come forward with her today to expose and defeat Brian Warner. I was first warned about Marilyn Manson's true nature by none other than Ninja. He told me that Manson had a rape dungeon and, among other horrible things, said he would never let him near me. But they were friends, and he bragged about that fact. I think he learned a lot from Manson, as I see so many disturbing parallels in the behaviors described by Manson's victims today. They are brave survivors, taking a stand not only against their tormentor, but against an entire industry that has chosen to hide and protect the behavior of men like this, while simultaneously discrediting, intimidating, and blackballing the people who expose it. The industry that has given power and protection to monsters like this is the true evil to fear. Tony Ciula and Ciula Management, whose socials and website don't seem to exist anymore. Strange. You represented both Manson and Diane Ward. Your company booked flights around the world for young fans like myself to be shipped in for the entertainment of these men under false pretenses. There is a word for that. It is called trafficking. I'm going to use my platform to share the statements being made today because I think it's important that my audience are aware of the situation. I have been waiting for this day for some time. Narcissists are creatures of habit. Their behavior is patterned, and there is never just one victim. And just to finish it out strong, there is Mr. Manson himself with his dear friend, Damien Eccles of the West Memphis Three, who is also very good friends with Johnny Depp, right? And Johnny Depp and Marilyn Manson are real good friends too, right? So obviously there's a lot more to discuss about this topic specifically. I just think that, just like how I tell you guys, like, consider the source. You know what I mean? Treat me like propaganda. Go look for yourself. I think that there's a really big angle to chaos as a whole. And I'm not saying don't read it. Which side is it? Okay, I have it right there. Like, it's literally right there on my bookshelf. I still have my copy. Because there are good things to glean from it. There are. There's good information in there. I'm not saying that you throw it all out. But that Jack Nicholson biography was already out. Why didn't he include all of these, celebrities that he allegedly had such a hard time getting in contact with and getting information from? Why wasn't that included in the book? That was already out there. That could have been a footnote or a source citation. Seems kind of relevant, right? Especially in regards to Roman. Why wasn't an inquiry made or a FOIA attempted as to who allowed Dennis Hopper to sit there for 2 hours with Manson? Because that's illegal. That would have been a great thing to include in the book. That would have been very juicy, right? That would have been real juicy. I just think that people need to keep your head on a swivel. The propaganda game is real strong. And, for my folks that have been here for a long time, like I said, you guys have known what's up. You guys are well prepared for this. I don't endorse the whole, that it's the government, that it was the CIA. It was definitely the government that let him talk to Manson. Absolutely. There was some sort of back deal, agreement that was made, backdoor deal. But, like, the angle of Manson was a result of, the CIA and MK Ultra and just Jolly West. I've found a lot of strange stuff about a lot of weird hypnotists and a lot of crossover between the process, Manson, and I've barely been able to touch on it in the podcast series. And I think it's very weird that Tom O'Neill put William Deanier at renowned hypnotist. I would say close to the level of Dr. William J. Bryan Jr., who was also Deanier was also working for the Navy, which is really sus, but a very well-known hypnotist. He just kind of includes it as like a footnote, like an aside about, oh yeah, like they knew each other. No. Deanier and Manson were really good friends. And the club that Tom cites in Chaos that Manson was seen working at for Deanier was owned by a woman named Rose Deitch. I'm going to do a whole separate thing on that and I'll show you guys. It was basically an underage strip club. That's the way that it reads in the newspapers. It's presented as a club for teenagers, but then they get in a lot of trouble for having topless servers there. And they complain to local government when people are trying to get them shut down that they're not going to make any money without topless servers. So, let me end with a roundabout sort of theory that I'm working out right now in my brain. And I think that it's going to be relevant for those that will tune in, because I'm going to watch the documentary, because I'm going to pick it apart. And we're going to do a real deep dive in the podcast. The hypnotist, Jolly West. I categorize Dr. Jolly West in the drugs category, not hypnotism. Maybe a little bit, but drugs are more his bag. And then you've got someone like Deanier, who's good friends with Manson. Tommy Baumler, the guy who incorporated the process, who was also a hypnotist, who apparently him and Marianne de Grimston got along real well over their love of hypnotism. Baumler working with Dr. William J. Bryan Jr. before the Manson crimes. It's really fascinating. The first time that I can find them meeting is 6 months before the crimes, but that may be neither here nor there. If you have a group of individuals that are being trained and also being experimented on by professionals that are endorsed by the government, right? Like Brian, like West, like Martin Orne, whoever. You've got the hypnotism angle. You've got the Scientology and the process angle, right? Where past life regression, right? With the auditing your past lives, you got to get rid of all the like little whatever things. What do they call those things that stick to your body? Like you got to get rid of them, whatever. That is also considered a form of hypnotism. This is cited in court records from Australia when Scientology was being sued. This was like back in the 80s. Okay? If you have a whole bunch of people that are really good at hypnotism and they're getting real weird in Laurel Canyon and beyond, and they're taking a bunch of acid, the dirty acid, the MDMA, the dirty MDMA, because don't forget, an Essalon employee died from bad MDMA. And it is documented that the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, as well as Wojciech Frykowski and Jay Sebring, were also trafficking some of that MDMA. So you got people doing all kinds of crazy stuff, right? There is a very good likelihood that the Manson family itself not only is a COINTELPRO operation, I do not see it as MK Ultra. I think it is a COINTELPRO and or chaos operation, but the hypnotism, the drugs, and the sex. It was also a massive honeypot operation, because if you've got a bunch of broads that are very skilled in auditing, that know how to hypnotize people, who are already out here tricking, like Marianne, right? And I found the citation about her working for MI5, so we're going to come back to that. But if you have all of that, that's the perfect honeypot operation, because you can hypnotize them if the drugs don't work. And then if you are able to hypnotize them, then the drugs are just going to enhance it. You know what I mean? Yeah, body thetans. Thank you so much, Power Lies. Body thetans. Yeah, the little, whatever. You got to get them off. Little past lives or past personalities, whatever you got to get rid of. If they're doing all of that, you have the perfect honeypot operation. And some people won't remember it. But I can assure you that they were probably reminded the next morning or when it was time to pay the piper. And they said, hey, here's what we got on you. Now you're going to cooperate. And I think that that is why Tom O'Neill claims to have spent 20 years writing that book, because a lot of those individuals were blackmailed by that honeypot operation. Because while the girls of the family seemed like they smelled a little bit different, that room smelled different, you know what I'm saying? It still was very effective. Dennis Wilson bragging about living with 17 girls. And Jay Sebring's salon was wired and tapped by him when it was built. So they were monitoring everybody all the time, the entire time. Just food for thought as we move forward. Because no, this absolutely will not be the end of the discussion of chaos, nor Tom O'Neill. Again, I would love if Mr. Paul Hartberger would come out of hiding. And I would love to know if Fred and Tom knew each other, and maybe that's how you guys met, or how you came to know Mr. Zeman and all of these other individuals. But I have a feeling that I'm not going to get the answer. But I'm going to leave it here for now. I hope that this was informative, and if not, maybe a little bit entertaining. And I will talk to you guys very soon. Have a good weekend.